Stalingrad, Kursk, Normandy. Through the infernos of the Second World War, one machine gun carved its legend into history. Not the weapon you'd expect. Not the famous MG42 with its terrifying rate of fire, but its older predecessor, a design that should have been obsolete yet refused to leave the battlefield. This is the story of why the MG34, introduced in 1936, fought through every campaign, every front, every desperate battle until the very end. This is the story of a weapon that survived not by chance, but by necessity. Germany's defeat in 1918 destroyed its military, but it didn't destroy memory. Infantry commanders remembered one brutal truth: concentrated automatic fire had dominated the trenches. The Treaty of Versailles banned heavy weapon development, but secret programs continued anyway. By 1932, the German military wanted something revolutionary: a universal machine gun. One weapon that could handle multiple battlefield roles without swapping hardware. This was radical thinking. Most machine guns lived in rigid categories: light guns for infantry squads, heavy guns for sustained fire. German theorists wanted both: same gun, multiple roles. The weapon needed three things: accuracy for precision fire, durability for extended combat, and mobility for offensive operations. Rheinmetall's Louis Stange designed the MG30 in 1930. Heinrich Vollmer at Mauser took that design and transformed it. The result was the Maschinengewehr 34, introduced in 1934, issued to units in 1936, and formally adopted in January 1939. This weapon would define German infantry doctrine for the next decade. Mount it on a bipod, mobile squad support. Lock it into the Lafette 34 tripod. Defensive positions, indirect fire, sustained engagement. Same gun, different battles. This wasn't just innovation. This was a complete rethinking of infantry firepower. But what made soldiers trust their lives to this weapon? It was precision. The machined receiver and tight tolerances produced consistent accuracy under the worst conditions imaginable. Every component manufactured to exacting standards. While later designs prioritized mass production, this gun prioritized one thing: reliability when it mattered most. That precision meant crews could depend on it. When the line held or broke, when assaults succeeded or failed, this weapon delivered. The quick-change barrel system became the stuff of legend. Overheating had plagued earlier machine guns. Sustained fire meant waiting or catastrophic failure. This design solved that problem completely. A trained gunner could swap barrels in seconds. No tools, no delay. The spare barrel wasn't optional equipment, it was tactical doctrine. Keep firing, stay in the fight, win the engagement. Build quality exceeded anything fielded before. Machined steel components endured North African heat and Russian winters. Field maintenance was straightforward. Despite mechanical complexity, crews could clean and repair it in shell holes, trenches, or bombed-out buildings. That reliability forged an unshakable bond between soldiers and their weapon. The firing mechanism balanced two critical needs: accuracy and firepower. Its recoil-operated system worked reliably even as ammunition quality declined, wartime production standards dropped. The weapon kept firing, 800 to 900 rounds per minute, devastating against enemy positions, controllable enough for precision work. This balance made it effective in situations that would overwhelm specialized weapons. Here's where the story turns. When the MG42 arrived in 1942, it should have replaced the older design completely. The newer gun used stamped components and simplified production, perfect for wartime mass manufacturing. So why didn't it? Production reality crashed into wartime necessity. Mauser's factories couldn't abandon their machining infrastructure overnight. Retooling meant halting production for months. During total war, that was impossible. The Oberndorf facility kept producing the original design, because stopping meant losing thousands of weapons Germany desperately needed. Production capacity mattered more than optimal efficiency. Material shortages complicated everything. The MG42 used different steel alloys and manufacturing processes. But factories already making the earlier weapon had something irreplaceable: established supply chains, trained workers, quality control systems. Disrupting this risked production collapse at the worst possible moment, German leaders made a calculated choice: parallel production, both weapons in different factories for maximum output. Training and logistics created unstoppable momentum. Armorers knew the original design intimately. Manuals existed. Spare parts inventories were massive. Maintenance procedures were standardized across the entire Wehrmacht. Adding a second weapon system meant duplicating this entire infrastructure while fighting the Soviet Union, the Western Allies, and partisan forces simultaneously. The Wehrmacht operated both designs because complete replacement was logistically impossible. Both weapons fired the same 7.92 by 57 mm Mauser ammunition. Both filled identical tactical roles. Mixed equipment within divisions became normal. Supply chains adapted and combat units operated whichever weapon arrived. This wasn't confusion. This was adaptation under fire. Combat revealed specific advantages the older design still held. Veteran crews appreciated its accuracy during precision engagements. The machined receiver's consistency delivered better shot placement than the MG42's screaming fire rate. Some units specifically requested it for defensive operations. Accuracy over volume, precision over spray. Vehicle-mounted infantry valued it particularly. Half-track crews found its dimensions and mounting interfaces ideal. Years of combat had refined integration with armored personnel carriers. Switching weapons meant re-engineering mounts and retraining crews under fire. Combat veterans preferred proven systems. Systems that worked. Anti-aircraft use showed clear preferences. The weapon's moderate rate of fire and superior accuracy made it effective against low-flying aircraft. Gunners could track targets precisely, conserve ammunition during brief engagements. The MG42's extreme speed created supply problems during air defense actions that lasted seconds. The Lafette tripod and optical sight combination enabled something the newer weapon couldn't match: indirect fire techniques. Experienced crews could suppress distant positions with calculated precision. This proved invaluable as German forces increasingly fought from prepared defensive positions. Soldiers developed preferences based on their role. Assault troops favored the MG42's overwhelming firepower. Defensive units and vehicle crews often preferred the earlier model's controllability. Neither weapon was universally superior. They excelled in different tactical situations. But here's the real reason this weapon never disappeared. Armored vehicles, German tanks from the Panzer III onward, used it as standard coaxial armament. These installations required specific dimensions, mounting hardware, fire control interfaces. The machined receiver allowed the tight tolerances necessary for vehicle integration. Replacing it meant redesigning every tank's internal weapon mount. An engineering nightmare during wartime production. Hull-mounted positions in tanks and assault guns relied on the same system. Ball mounts were designed around its exact dimensions and balance characteristics. Engineers had perfected these interfaces through years of combat refinement. The MG42's different configuration created compatibility problems that couldn't be quickly resolved. Coaxial mounting presented unique challenges. The weapon needed to function inverted or at steep angles while synchronized with the main gun. This required mechanical reliability in orientations that would jam lesser designs. The earlier model's proven track record made it irreplaceable. Half-tracks and armored cars represented entire vehicle categories. The SDKFZ series used standardized mounts across dozens of types. These mounts accommodated the weapon's exact dimensions, balance point, recoil characteristics. Converting entire vehicle classes required factory modifications impossible under wartime pressure. Vehicles rolled off assembly lines with mounting systems designed for the established weapon. They rolled into combat the same way. Anti-aircraft installations on vehicles demanded specific characteristics. Quad-mount systems on some half-tracks. pintle mounts on others, all engineered around the original design. These weapons provided crucial defense against Allied air superiority. Changing the gun meant redesigning entire mount systems. Work impossible while vehicles were desperately needed at the front. Vehicle-mounted weapon logistics operated separately from infantry supply chains. Spare barrels, recoil springs, mounting hardware, all vehicle-specific. Supporting a different weapon system would strain German logistics beyond capacity. The path of least resistance kept the proven system in production. Germany's industrial base operated under extreme stress throughout the war. Raw material shortages forced constant adaptation. The original design required high-grade steel and precision machining, increasingly scarce resources. But factories had optimized these processes over nearly a decade. Abandoning this expertise meant losing efficiency when production mattered most. Factory specialization created path dependency. Mauser's Oberndorf facility had become exceptionally efficient. The workforce understood the weapon's complexities and quality control was refined. Switching production would waste institutional knowledge while workers learned new processes. During total war, such inefficiency could be fatal. Dozens of subcontractor firms produced components for final assembly. These suppliers had invested in tooling and training for existing designs. Coordinating a complete switch across this distributed network required planning capacity that Germany's chaotic war economy simply lacked. Spare parts inventories created their own momentum. Millions of components existed throughout the supply system. Abandoning the weapon would waste this inventory while creating shortages for whatever replaced it. Practical logistics favored maintaining existing equipment. Production figures remain debated. Wehrmacht records show over 350,000 units manufactured from 1939 to 1945. Some sources cite higher totals approaching 577,000, including pre-war production. Regardless of exact numbers, the weapon remained in continuous production through May 1945. Proof of its enduring necessity. Both machine guns fought side by side through Germany's final battles. Units received whichever weapons the supply system delivered. Mixed squads became standard. Ammunition compatibility meant either gun fulfilled the tactical role. Soldiers adapted, maintained proficiency with both, survived with whichever weapon they carried. Ersatz units formed during Germany's collapse used whatever remained available. Training schools, rear area troops, hastily assembled formations all relied on extensive stockpiles. These guns remained perfectly functional as German logistics crumbled. Age didn't diminish their lethality. Vehicle crews exemplified continued reliance on the original design, and tank as well as assault gun units continued to receive newly manufactured vehicles, mounting it well into 1945, since production lines were unable to switch to alternative mounting systems. Vehicles entered combat with proven weapons. Frontline effectiveness trumped theoretical optimization. Defensive operations increasingly characterized German tactics after 1943. The earlier weapons' precision proved valuable in prepared positions. Units fighting delaying actions appreciated characteristics that suited defensive combat. This tactical shift accidentally played to the weapon's strengths. Ammunition supply influenced preferences in unexpected ways, as the MG42's extreme rate of fire consumed rounds rapidly and created logistical burdens during Germany's retreat. The earlier design's moderate rate stretched limited supplies further, and some commanders preferred it because strained supply lines couldn't sustain the newer weapon's appetite. The weapon's service extended decades beyond Germany's surrender. France used captured examples into the 1950s during colonial conflicts. Czechoslovakia manufactured modified versions domestically. Norway converted captured weapons to different calibers. The Norwegian Home Guard used them into the mid-1990s. These guns proved too valuable to discard. The design influenced post-war weapons development significantly. Its quick-change barrel became standard on general-purpose machine guns worldwide. The universal weapon concept shaped how NATO and Warsaw Pact nations approached squad automatics. Modern designs from the M60 to the FNMAG trace conceptual lineage to this weapon's pioneering doctrine. Switzerland produced it under license, operated it as their standard machine gun through the 1950s. This neutral nation's adoption proved the design's merits transcended German wartime manufacturing. Swiss versions benefited from higher production standards, arguably the finest examples ever made. Military historians regard it as a watershed design, bridging interwar and modern automatic weapons. The combination of precision manufacturing and tactical versatility marked a specific moment in military technology. Its influence extended beyond direct lineage. The weapon proved properly engineered automatics could serve multiple roles without compromising performance. This lesson shaped Cold War doctrine. It continues influencing modern infantry weapons. The general-purpose machine gun concept remains fundamental to contemporary military organization. The German machine gun that entered service in 1936 survived the entire war, not because Germany failed to innovate, but because modern warfare operates on brutal practicality. Production infrastructure couldn't be replaced overnight, and vehicle integration demanded specific characteristics that no alternative could immediately match, creating tactical situations where precision outweighed raw firepower. Wartime logistics couldn't support complete replacement while maintaining combat effectiveness. War doesn't wait for perfect solutions. It rewards what works, what's available, what can be sustained under pressure. The continued service of this weapon through 1945 wasn't a failure of German engineering or planning. It was the reality of total war. Both machine guns served because both were needed, each filling roles the other couldn't immediately assume, each keeping soldiers alive in different tactical situations. Understanding this weapon's longevity reveals a fundamental truth about military technology. Combat effectiveness isn't determined by specifications alone, because production capacity, supply chain compatibility, institutional knowledge, and tactical doctrine all limit what armies can actually field. The most advanced weapon means nothing if you can't build it, mount it, supply it, or maintain it under fire. This machine gun remained on the battlefield through the final battles because warfare is never clean, never simple, and never allows the luxury of perfect transitions. It stayed in service because when nations fight for survival, they use every weapon that still fires, every system that still works, every advantage that keeps their soldiers alive one more day. The MG34 didn't become obsolete in 1942. It became essential in ways its designers never imagined. It survived because total war doesn't respect engineering timelines or production schedules. Total war respects only one thing: what wins battles today. That's not obsolescence. That's war.